How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Blue Shifting, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry. We are now in the story for Rena, and we've, for the first real time, phased into Rena's point of view, which is going to be really interesting. It's decided to denote it with her pink text, which is interesting. It's a choice. It's not the one I would expect, but it's a choice, and I'm down for it. So we kind of did this interesting thing where we bounced between her and Keiichi. We started with Keiichi, which is very familiar point of view, obviously, and now we're here with her, and it's a little different, but in a good way. I'm interested to see that, because I think that's where we're going to learn the most, is when we get the other points of view, which is kind of what these Antric arcs are all about. But it's interesting, because the Shion one, we never saw anything from Keiichi's point of view at all. Not really, if I recall correctly. It was always from Shion's point of view. And so now we're kind of getting this kind of dual point of view, which is an interesting choice, but I don't hate it. I think it's a really good one. But yeah, no, Rena's here. We had a good day. She had a really positive day, but saw, what was her name? Started with an R, but I couldn't think of it. Like Rika, maybe? Saw her unpleasant. I made a prediction. I was like, is she like a family member or something? Because she talks about doing things like, oh, let's take a cake home or something. She talks about home as being with Rena. People were kind of like, you'll see kind of thing. So like, I don't know if I'm on the right track for that one or not. But some reason Rena doesn't like that person. She also wears weird clothes, but it is what it is. Anyway. One thing I did forget, though, is I should have changed the sprites when we saw somebody new on the screen. I haven't been doing that. I completely forgot that happens, and that could be interesting to look at. So if we see them again, I'll try and do it just so we can see, what are the other versions. I think it's I have to push the P key in order to make it happen, so we'll see. Anyway, enough about that rambling. Let's see what treasures Rena is going to find today on this good day where she gets melancholy when things go so well because she feels a building dread that the universe has to snap back in karma at some point. So let's see what she finds. I pedaled my bike with determination. My house is nearby, but I took another street that led to the damn construction site. I might have been okay to go home just then, but I hesitated to go since I didn't want to be seen. I had so much fun today, I wanted to continue feeling happy as long as I could. That's implying, right out the gate, that she doesn't feel happy at home, which is sad, really. It's something that I've always wondered about. Despite the fact that Keiichi and Rena seem very close, he's never stopped by her house. And the thing I always thought was odd was that he never even questions it, or, it never comes up. Now, I always just assumed it was, not relevant to the story, but it probably happened in the past. But as we've gone on, it kind of is an oddity. And now that she's thinking along these lines that happiness ends when she goes home, I wonder if her home situation might be more similar to Saltako's when her uncle came back to town. Stuff happens at home that she doesn't like. Now, is it going to be that severe? Probably not. But there could be a lot of excess baggage at home. In fact, her parents might treat her very differently. Because if you recall, why are they here in Hinamizawa? Well, it's because she got into that fight at school where she nearly beat people to death in her own class. I imagine they don't see her as human, because that's something you don't imagine your own child doing to other people. And I think it would affect how they see you, even if they're supposed to love you, and they probably do love you unconditionally. Performing acts like that is not something you could just get over. So, yeah. Ugh. All right, let's see what else we got. It was already getting late, but I felt like it was getting dark faster than usual. Just like Keiichi-kun said, the clouds in the sky were growing darker. It might start raining hard. Guess she really seems like she's avoiding home. That's rarely a good thing. As in, it usually means bad things. Stop it, Rena. You had so much fun today. You have to stay happy as long as you can. I'm happy. I enjoy every day. Rena, say it. Say the magic words. Don't be embarrassed. You're not dumb or anything. Might be able to enjoy every day even more if I were dumb. It's true, ignorance does seem to be bliss because you just don't think about things. If so, dumb is what I'd want to be. Oh no. You know what that is? That's the mask. That's her mask. I've always thought it was like, that's what I always described it, right? Like I always talked about how like she seems so pleasant and happy, but underneath, like she takes the mask off and she's up like serious and everything. But it's a serious mask. It's not a mask as in like I need to put on a front for people. It's the mask she wears for herself. It's the mask she sees in the mirror. It's the one that she pulls over her face because she can't stand to see what's underneath it. That's a scary mask. That's a scary mask because it's not meant to be one for other people. It's one others enjoy. It's the one that others recognize. But it was a mask she designed for herself, I think. Aww. There, I said it. I'm sure I can find something cute. As long as I believe it's cute, anything can be that way. I should fill my heart with happy memories of today and tomorrow, and yesterday. I should look forward to the happiness I'm going to receive tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, too. Oh, this is gonna get real depressing, isn't it? I reached the damn construction site. A mountain of trash loomed before me. I parked my bicycle and walked down the mountain to trash and scrap. This place is my castle. It would be incredible if anyone else came to the mountain of trash. I've come here many times, and I usually stay for a long while, but I've never seen anyone walk by. Well, excuse me. This place is the village's blind spot. I heard that many people came here all the time during the dam wars, but it was abandoned after that. The villagers are no longer needed to come here, and some people even forgot about it entirely. It seems like they dump trash here at midnight, but I've never seen a truck actually dump trash, at least. If they dumped new trash more often, it'd give me more time to kill. You know, I almost wonder if this was also like a retaliation thing, where like Hinamizawa technically won in the dam war, and maybe bitter people in like neighboring provinces or cities, like came and started dumping trash illegally to try and make it annoying, to be like, look at what you bought yourself. Like you won this great fight for a garbage pile kind of thing, right? But no one really cares. People brush it off, and now people are probably just used to dumping here because it probably is cheaper than doing it the proper way, which is just sad. Alright, they dump new trash more often and give me more time to kill. But it looks like it's not going to happen for a while. I walked down the slope of the trash pile all the way down to the bottom and head behind another pile. Nobody ever comes here. I've come here many times. I usually stay for a long while, but nobody has ever come to mess up this place. Not even the other kids from my school come here. They all believe that an arm of the manager at the construction site is buried somewhere in the trash piles, and they also believe the whole place is haunted. They told me that the ghost with one arm still wanders around here looking for his missing limb. Sadly, I haven't seen the ghost either. I go, she's like, oh, I wish the ghost had been here. I'm not scared. In fact, I'd rather like to meet him. I wouldn't mind helping him find his arm. If he's feeling lonely, I'd want him to be my conversation partner. There's a station wagon buried in the trash pile. It doesn't have tires, but other than that, it looks like a station wagon. The station wagon's my secret hideout. Unfortunately, the sliding door and the rear doors don't open. So whenever I want to get in, I have to enter the car through the passenger seat and crawl into the back from there. Isn't this also the car that's in the beginning? Like she has her friends, like because it started this when she went to start, telling her story. She described that they were all here, and that I think Mion and maybe Keiichi are sitting on the hood of a station wagon. So I think it might be her secret spot, is that where she took them. Of course, I took off my shoes at the passenger seat. When you look at it from the outside, it's just a dirty, abandoned car. But on the inside, it's nice and clean because I had it swept out and decorated a little. Wow. That took me a long time. The back seats are lying flat because I wanted to have as much space as possible. I found a mattress in the trash pile and pulled onto that space instead. A mattress. That's gotta be filthy, one. And two, does she go home? Like, does she go home? I mean, she probably does, but this is sounding like a place that she's trying to make her home. It was a bit dirty, so I brought a bed sheet from home and covered the mattress with it. I put my favorite cushions on top with that and turned it into a perfect bed. I put cushions and stuffed animals everywhere. That's not all. Look at this. I have a bunch of sweets here, too. I have a bag of fruit candy in 4 different colors and some cookies, but they're going bad. I'll have to throw them away. My bear-shaped water bottle was empty. When I come here to spend some time on Sundays, I usually bring this water bottle with some sweetened tea inside it. I have a box of tissues, a flashlight, extra batteries, and other daily necessities in here. Yeah. How is the food not getting, how are bugs not getting to the food? I also have a few books to read in order to kill some time while I'm at it. And I have this. What do you think this is? Look, ta-da! My hideout suddenly lit up thanks to the table lamp. There's an electric outlet on the side of the old nearby construction office. Okay, I was about to say, I can't be running on the car battery. I thought they'd have cut the power years ago, but to my surprise, I was wrong. Electricity is still being supplied to the outlet. When I found tons of extension cords, I came up with the idea to connect them all and make an electricity come all the way to my hideout. Now I can spend time here comfortably with some sweets, books, and light. If I wanted to, I might be able to spend the night here. But I may catch a cold since it gets very cold at night. See? This is a very nice hideout, isn't it? At first I thought somebody would find it a mess with it. But that hasn't happened so far. That's because nobody comes here, and everybody forgot about this place. That's how this place became my perfect secret hideout. Fortunately, I ate so much today I'm still full. I can tell them that I was playing with my friends at her house and ate dinner there. I'm going to stay here for a while and relax. And I'm going to treat myself. I loved the water gun battle yesterday. My heart had been pounding when I fought the one-on-one with Keiichi-kun. I also had a great fun with Angel more today. I'd never experienced such a crazy game with so many people in my life. It was still feeling after effects, and I was sure I'd have a dream about it tonight. That was why I wanted to bask in these happy feelings. That was why I'm going to treat myself in here. I should take off my shoes and stretch my toes. I should cherish the time while I can be myself. Like, you hear that? Be myself. Where she takes off the mask. Where she can allow herself to be. That's cool. I get it. And that sucks that you feel like you can't do that at home. Once I took off my shoes, I felt so relaxed I didn't want to put them on again. I played all day and I was very tired. The treasure hunt could wait. As it got darker, the light in the table lamp became encouraging. It really was getting dark faster than usual. All of a sudden, I heard the sound of raindrops hitting the roof of the car. Pitter-patter, pitter-pitter-pitter. The interval between drops got shorter and shorter. When it became a continuous sound, I began to hear thunder. Even though it was raining heavily, I remained very quiet inside the car, making me feel like I was in a different world. In my castle, after all. I felt a bit cold, so I unfolded the big blanket and hid under it. I'm here alone under the warm blanket that has my scent. Even though nobody knew where I was at that moment, I feel like I was left alone in the heavy rain. I still feel secure, free from anxiety for some reason. I feel like this heavy rain will keep my enemies away from my castle. I liked it that way. Rain in Hinamizawa has always been a herald of mysteriousness, or I don't know if it's intentional, but every time it rains, it makes it feel like we're entering a different world where the rules don't really apply anymore. This place is full of small happiness. It's full of my favorite things. That's why I'm happy whenever I'm here. When I put another blanket over me, I feel as warm as if I were in bed. I listen to the soothing sounds of the raindrops hitting the scrap iron in the trash heaps, and it makes me feel sleepy. This is a castle of trash. This trash came here because nobody wanted it. This is where it lives. This is a country where unwanted refuse lives together. This is a country where unwanted refuse lives together. Is that how you see yourself, Rena? I feel like I fit in here. But at the same time, I knew it was just a temporary place for me, and that somewhere that I had to go back, and there's somewhere I have to go back to. No, I shouldn't think about things like that. Whenever I realize I don't belong here, I remember I'm in the middle of a very dirty pile of trash. I should just doze off for a little bit longer. Thinking it's poisonous. Wanted to keep myself out of the poison so that the kind Rena within me could stay pure. God, think about that. I'd rather just not think, because being idiot me is a blessing. Wow. A little bit longer. Just a little bit longer, and I closed my eyes. That'd be so dangerous for me. It didn't used to be the case. I used to struggle to fall asleep. It used to take me a long time. But ever since I was sick, I came back from being ill for so long, and I can just sleep like that. I I can lay down and just close my eyes, and if I'm tired, like I'm tired now, so I'm gonna go to bed shortly after this. I'm gonna be like, go to bed, I'm gonna lay down, I'm gonna put on like a little bit of music maybe or something, and I'm gonna curl up, and I'm a stomach sleeper, so I'll like lay down on my stomach, and then I'll be gone. And it'll be the next morning like that. My mother was a very busy woman. The harder she worked, the more her work was valued, and she kept getting promoted. She sought to go higher and higher. She was always shining, and she was my hero. My mother started her career as a fashion designer at a small clothing factory in Okonomiya. My father was a designer too. They met through their job and soon got married. They lived in a small apartment in Okonomiya, but they moved to my grandma's house, our current house, in Hinamizawa when she got pregnant with me. We lived there until right before I went to elementary school. Now that I think about it, that was the happiest time of my life. I felt happy every day and believed without a doubt that tomorrow would be the same. I was so happy I took it for granted I didn't feel the happiness. I really did feel happy every day. I was small at the time, didn't really understand what was going on, but it seemed like the company my parents were working for was having financial difficulties. So my mother and a few other young designers started talking about leaving the company and going independent. After many things happened and the situation grew complicated, they got an offer to work at a big design firm in Ibaraki and took the offer. At the time, I heard my mother saying many difficult words like limited partnership and business alliance, but in short, what she wanted to do was move to Ibaraki. Oh, just dropped that. My mother and her peers were hired because of their talent and experience made them immediate assets to the new company. However, my father wasn't one of them. Oh, so she got picked up, but her father didn't. Ooh, that's rough. Don't get me wrong, that can work. Sorry about that. I have my headphones charging and they fell off the desk, so I'm gonna just put them down there. So the trouble with that is, like, you can make that work, but it's a strain. Any relationship with distance is always going to feel fumbly. Now, it's not a problem to be separated, like, as distance-wise, and I think it's healthy for people who are dating or married or whatever, who are, like, whatever, committed relationships, to be able to give each other space, to do things on your own, to travel on your own and all that. But ultimately, you're supposed to be a partnership. That's what the relationships are all about. It's about give and take and supporting one another. But long-term separation like that can't be healthy. Granted, it can work, but I feel like you would need to go into that with an understanding that if it's getting too difficult, what's pulling you apart can't be more important than the relationship. And that might mean you have to give up what you're doing in order to figure out a way to be together. And I wonder if they're not going to be able to do that. So my father wasn't one of them. Unfortunately, my father wasn't as talented as my mother was. So moving to Ibaraki meant my father had to give up being a fashion designer. My mother's new company had high expectations of her talent and promised her a responsible project. She didn't want to waste her growing talent and passion living in a rural town like Hinamizawa. So my mother convinced my father to quit his job and move to Ibaraki and support her to help her build her career. Back then, moving meant I had to say goodbye to my close friends. I didn't want to move and kept crying about it. After we moved to Ibaraki, my mother was a big success. Not only did she have great leadership skills, she was full of energy, and I believe she made the best use of her talents to succeed. She came home late every night and barely had any days off. When she had a big project, she often stayed entire nights at her office. But when she came home, she always looked fulfilled and wore a happy smile that she never wore when she was in Hinamizawa. She was shining, and I remember I always wanted to shine like her when I grew up. On the other hand, my father wasn't doing so well. He couldn't find a job as a fashion designer, so he took a clerical job at some small company, but he kept changing positions. He couldn't use the experience he had cultivated, and it was very hard for him. But he was very understanding. He started to take care of things around the house for my mother, who got busier and busier, having one project after another. I mean, that's pretty fair, but I understand he's probably feeling very unfulfilled. He cleaned the house, did the laundry, came to my school events. However, he couldn't cook. He did cook rice, but he always brought side dishes from the grocery store. We ate dinner without my mother more and more often. I guess she's busy again. Every time I said that, he always told me, "Your mother's working very hard. So let's support her, Rena." That was what he always told me. I decided to help my father with the cooking. I thought it was a good idea to learn how to cook since he wasn't good at it. Whenever my mother cooked, I had helped her and tried to learn how to cook from her. She apologized for not having enough time to cook for us, but she was happy I was learning. And this explains why she's always been so good at cooking. I think I wrote in my school yearbook that I wanted to be a clothing designer in the future just like my mother. But apparently I lacked my mother's exceptional sense of style. She used to tell me, taste is something that you're born with, not something you cultivate. I actually would disagree with that. I think you can cultivate a sense of taste in fashion. And it doesn't just come from like memorizing what other people who are, good and fashionable do. I think it's a skill that you can learn like cooking. But there's also going to be a point where like you might have to lean on others or rely on just like, consistent recipes rather than trying to cook on your own. Like I can follow a recipe to a T. I could even add some flair and like modify things if I, practice enough. But I could never be a chef. But not being a chef doesn't mean I can't enjoy and make a good meal cooking. So just because you aren't a fashion designer doesn't mean that you can't be decent at dictating your wardrobe. Plus, there's always something to be said about someone who can confidently just wear what they want to wear because they want to wear it. Even if it's goofy. There's, confidence is a major part of fashion. I remember I was discouraged to be a designer because of that. That was why I decided to reach her by getting better at things that she wasn't good at, instead of trying to be like her. I wanted to be good not only at cooking, but also doing things around the house, like cleaning, doing laundry, and grocery shopping. I remember my father was really happy I did all that for him because he wasn't good at it at all. He couldn't find a job, spent a lot of time at home, so he seemed to enjoy spending time doing the housework with his daughter more than anything. I started to become better and better at filling in for my mother. And she started to get too busy to do any of the housework at all. She moved on to a more responsible position at her job. She took me out to many places as if to compensate for leaving me alone all the time. She used to say, "Let's go eat something delicious without telling your father," and took me out to a restaurant. She took me to high-class restaurants and amusement parks. Sometimes it was only me and my mother. Sometimes it was with her friends from work. She took me to a beach barbecue one summer with those friends. It was introduced to her as her daughter, and every one of them pampered me. I still remember there was one guy in particular who doted on me. He was a good-looking young man. I called him Uncle once, and he got mad at me, who was very nicely tanned with dyed brown hair. I don't like where this is going, because I think I know where it's going, and it's going to be it's like the epitome of hubris. This young man often came with us when we went out. When my mother took me somewhere, she usually made several phone calls to her work during the day, and sometimes she could take me out to places where she could also do her work at the same time. So I didn't feel awkward when people from her work came with us. But I always preferred to be alone with her, so I was happier when we could do that. One day, she took me to a very high-end part of town. Of course, she always spoiled me whenever we went out. She brought me things and let me eat whatever I wanted. It's like they're living a life where they're divorced, right? They're not, but it's the same thing as if they were divorced. They're just taking turns with her, and one parent, spoils with money, the other spoils with time. And it's weird. But she especially spoiled me on that day. Oh no, is this because something official is about to happen? She took me to many expensive-looking boutiques and accessory stores. She was about to buy me something, but I told her not to get it because it didn't look good on me. Without hesitation, she bought it anyway. I remember that there were many zeros on the price tag. On that day, I realized my mother's design work had made her a very successful woman, and she was earning a lot of money. We took a break at a ridiculously expensive-looking restaurant that probably charged 1,000 yen for a glass of orange juice. My mother clapped her hands and spoke to me with a smile on her face. She asked, "Reina, would you like to make your dream come true?" How would you know her dream? You don't do anything. You just buy her stuff. When I was in kindergarten, my teacher gave students a topic to draw a picture of. My topic was my dream, and I drew myself eating a mountain of fruit parfait all by myself. What my mother meant to say was that she was going to make that dream come true for me. I mean, it's kind of cute, but I doubt that's still her dream. It was a normal day. It wasn't my birthday or anything. But since my mother always spoiled me when we went out together, I didn't feel awkward about it at all, and I accepted her offer with a happy smile. There were 5 or 6 fruit parfaits in front of me. Oh my gosh. I remember it looked exactly like the world I drew, and I felt like I was floating in that dream world. It was too much for us to finish. But we dug in our spoons into it as if we were playing in the mud, and we really enjoyed eating it together. It was my first time experiencing getting full by eating only fruit parfaits, and I remember I was very happy. I enjoyed tasting the happiness and chatting with my mother.
レイナちゃん、この間映画とお食事に行った時、一緒だった人のことを覚えてる？
Oh boy, here we go.
秋人おじさんだっけ？お兄さんって呼ばないとぶたれる。
He's gonna hit me. Hit me?
レイナちゃんは秋人さんのこと好き？
Oh my gosh.
嫌い。いつもレイナのことからかうもん。
それは大好きだからちょっかいを出してるのよ。バーベキューの時はとっても仲良くしてたじゃない。
たまには仲良しかな。
I don't like where this is going.
かな？
My mother laughed. I didn't know why she brought up the subject, but I didn't really pay attention to it because I was too young. Now that I think about it, she was breaking the news. I just didn't notice.
ねえ、レイナちゃんはお母さんとお父さんとどっちが好き？
That's such a terrible thing to say to a child. I can't believe this. God, I don't like her mom. Her mom sucks.
お母さん。
It wasn't that I hated my father or anything, but I thought giving her that answer was appropriate after she spoiled me so much.
もしもお母さんとお父さんが別々のお家に住むことになったら、レイナはどっちのお家に住みたい？
Live with your dad.
お
Yeah.
お母さんね、お父さんと別れて秋人おじさんと結婚しようと思うの。
Dang, man. That sucks. You can't just put that on a child. She's clearly like really young. Like elementary school, like maybe 8? You can't do that. At that time, my mother was a very successful woman. I didn't know this at the time, but she was drafted by a headhunter to work at a bigger company, where she was promoted to a higher and more responsible position, one where she could bring out the most of her talent. Of course, the position wasn't the only thing she gained. Compared to my father's low salary, my mother was earning enough money to support a family of 3 and still have some left over. I'd kind of realized it from the way she spent money. The greater the position she achieved, the more she spent time with people at her level. All of them were bright and talented. Compared to them, my father might have looked unattractive to her. Dude, this friggin' happens, though. Like, one thing that's really sad is that people get married when they're at their lower points in life, right? Not making much money, maybe really out of shape or whatnot, and you find somebody and they accept you for who you are and you accept them for who they are, and you start a relationship. But then someone has like success, financial success, maybe spiritual success, maybe they physically, become very attractive and by taking care of their bodies or whatnot, and suddenly they start getting interest from other people that they find attractive, other people that they considered out of their league before, and suddenly they seem available, and people will abandon the person who stuck with them through the hard stuff, who cared about them when they were at their worst, who fell in love with them when they were nothing, and they'll just drop them away because they suddenly feel like I can do better. And it's something that happens, and I've seen it happen, and it's disgusting. It's so sad. In the end, you could argue that if they get to this kind of level, then it's probably for the best, because they clearly aren't going to keep their hands to themselves and all of that, but it still freaking sucks. It's like, it feels like you shouldn't have even got to that point, because you should be able to recognize when you're starting to walk down that road. I liked Uncle Akihito, but I liked him as one of my mother's friends, not in the same way I liked my father. I liked my father and mother equally, so it was very shocking to me that my mother wanted to divorce him. I felt as if the ground below me was beginning to crack. Having been younger, I wasn't this young, but young when you have your parents divorced, that's just how it feels. They did a great job in my case. My parents made it very clear. They didn't want us to think that it was our fault or that we had anything to really do with it. It was just the way things were going to go. And I'll tell you this right now. That's a bunch of bullcrap. Not because it isn't true. It is 100% true. I know for a fact that it was not us that caused strain on that relationship. It was not me and my siblings who were in any way involved with what happened between my parents. But it's bullcrap to think that that just somehow makes it like we're going to be okay. I guarantee you I was not okay. It messed me up good. And I think I'm still, like, not traumatized by it, but affected by it. Because you know what's crazy? To this day, so long after it's all happened, no one's told me why it happened. They've never told me. I've come to learn through, like, hearsay that there was just like a fizzling out, and one of them was unfaithful, and they came out with it. They came out with it and said, "Hey, this is how it is. I just don't think I love you anymore," and it split them up. But they've never told me that. I've asked because I like, it's selfish of me, but the fact that they never even acknowledged it, they just kind of made it seem like it was just a natural thing and it was just the way it was supposed to be, even though it tore them up a lot. Yet they never, to this day, will admit that there was anything that happened. They just kind of basically want me to live in a world where it just was. Kind of like how the sun rises in the morning. You know, like, they just split up. It was like as inevitable as as death and taxes, you know? And it's like, I hate that because it makes it feel like when one of the most important and like life-altering events happened, one that shook me to my core, made me question everything I thought I understood about my life, like the ground below me was beginning to crack, and it swallowed me whole. It's like they still want to believe like it didn't happen or had no impact on me. So that's bullcrap. You absolutely can and should help children who are involved in something like this understand that they are not at fault, but don't assume that that's going to just make the pain not be real. Because it's not necessarily the pain of them separating that was the problem. It was the foundation that I thought I had and the stability that the home had that was yanked out. Is it for the best? Probably. Were they happier because they did that? Probably. I'd say absolutely at this stage. But it doesn't mean it didn't hurt. And that hurt wasn't real. And that pain should be dismissed because it shouldn't have happened. Yeah, it definitely shouldn't. But it did. And that's just the way it is. Kids get hurt. They can be okay. But I think it's important to acknowledge that pain, not pretend it never happened, or that you somehow avoided it. Ugh, that's got deep. Anyway, that expression, I realized after actually fit my situation very well. I had to choose which side of the cracked ground I was going to stand on. My mother told me to live with her at her new house. Her new house meant the house Uncle Akihiko lived in. I thought a house was a sanctuary for a family. I believed that a house was a holy place where strangers couldn't easily enter. That was why I couldn't believe her. How could she let the stranger invade such a holy place so easily? Why do you hate my father? My mother looked down and didn't answer. I asked her another question. Why can't you stay with my father? I think that was the hardest and most heartbreaking of all the questions for my mother to answer. In short, my mother cheated on him. Oh my gosh, it's just my life. Why is Rena in my life like the same? She loved another man who was more attractive than my father. It was just that and nothing more. I knew more than anybody that it wasn't my father's fault. First of all, he decided to move from Hinamizawa to support my mother as much as he could. For him, nothing good had come from that. Actually, I think he had a very tough time since we'd moved to Ibaraki. But he volunteered to be her support and tried very hard to do that. God, that's freaking love right there. I thought my mother appreciated his support. So, I took her decision as a betrayal. I told her I disagreed with everything, including the divorce. I said it very loudly and made everyone at the store jump. Sure, Continue your relationship with Uncle Akihiko, but don't divorce my father. Well, that definitely wouldn't have been a good option. I feel bad for him. I feel terrible for him. He had been doing nothing but support you patiently this whole time. How could you do such a cruel thing to him? I screamed as loud as I could. My mother answered, "It's too late." Why? You haven't talked to my father about this, have you? It's not too late.
お母さんね、妊娠してるの。
You know what? Yeah, it is too late. You're just an idiot. In so many ways. I don't know whether my mother actually told him about the divorce in person. A middle-aged woman who called herself a lawyer came to the house several times to talk to my father on my mother's behalf. She sometimes called him too. My father begged the lawyer to let him speak directly to my mother many times, but it never happened. I could tell by the way they talked. He had no clue why my mother he had no clue when my mother told him she wanted a divorce. So for him, it just like was lightning out of the blue sky. Well, again, I'm not even sure she told him in person. The lawyer told him not to meet my mother, not to call her at work, and many other things too. To top it all off, she told him not to see my mother ever again. He wanted to talk to her. He called some of their mutual friends, but he only found out the name of the guy she was having an affair with, and nothing more. He asked me, "Do you know the guy?" I told him, I do. I also told him that he was a funny guy and had given me candy many times. I'll never forget how he looked when I told him that. He hit me for the first time. He hit me so hard that his handprint stayed on my cheek for a while. It's definitely not fair. I can sympathize, but you should never get so upset that you would do that. But he feels betrayed because in his eyes, Rena knew the whole time. But she was a kid. She didn't get that. Then he fell on the floor and cried loudly. And then I started to cry too. I didn't cry because he hit me. Uncle Akihiko was kind to me, so I liked him, and I talked about him out of courtesy. No, that wasn't it. Girls had to be kind to everyone. That's what I thought. But I was wrong. I learned in this world there are people you should be nice to and enemies you shouldn't be nice to. The enemies are the ones who would destroy my life with their very existence. Whether they mean to harm me or not doesn't matter. Oh, that's the philosophy behind her being crazy. Like when she's willing to go try and like basically stalk Keiichi. Enemies are the ones who would destroy my life with their very existence. The instant she feels that he's like... Because remember, she was worried about her family getting taken out by the curse. And so when Keiichi became a target, she jumped on board that bandwagon to protect herself. Dang. They're like weeds growing in a flower bed. Dandelions are innocent, but they take all the nutrition from the tulips and from the soil. That's why we have to pull them out. The dandelion did nothing wrong, but they're the enemy. Enemies are bad people. That guy was a bad person. I shouldn't have accepted him. I should have rejected him with everything I had. By doing so, I might have been able to disrupt their relationship. No, you wouldn't. But this is the way a kid would approach this problem. Again, so they said that the writer has worked in social services and that was a very telling thing about how much he was able to explore like the situation with Satoko and how frustrating that is. I think this is another example of that. It's describing like how children feel from a divorce, and it's describing it really, really well because I remember feeling a lot of these types of thoughts. I know in hindsight how irrational they are, how unfair they are, and how unrealistic they are. But you're a child trying to basically internalize trauma, and you're not going to do it in the right way because you're a child. And children don't see the world in pure logic. They follow their heart and emotions and feelings more so than anything because that's just as real, and it's tough to separate. So she's seeing the hurt that her father's feeling and feeling like she should have been able to be better and to be able to miraculously like understand a situation's complexity, understand the implications of what was going on, and been able to defend her thoughts, even though she had no way of doing so. If I tried to do so, my parents wouldn't have had to break up. See, that is the problem, is where kids will try and will feel like they have to blame themselves for what's happening, and that does need to be like toned down. At least I got that much out, where they really tried to hammer home that it was not us in any way, shape, or form. My father and I cried together, but we cried for different reasons. He must have cried because it happened so fast and didn't make any sense to him. God, that would suck. That would be the worst. I cried because I regretted that I let it happen when I had the chance to prevent it. My father stroked my cheek and opened his mouth to apologize, but he couldn't speak and just cried with me. One day, the lawyer sent me to see my mother. My mother asked me to live with her at her house again. I didn't know what to say, so I just kept looking down and listened to her apologize. My father knew I was going to see my mother on that day, so he handed me a letter and told me to give it to her. I don't know what he wrote in that letter, but for some reason I was able to imagine what kind of things he wrote when I felt it through the envelope. After all, the letter inside the envelope had a rough surface. He must have been crying while writing the letter, and his tears made the letter all wrinkled when it dried. Fetch me, man. This guy sounds like he has a freaking heart of, like, a pure innocent heart. Like, he genuinely just can't fathom what could have happened. I mean, that's the thing, is like, it would be so painful and would hurt so much, but I'm a practical realist kind of guy. Like, I would probably assume that this is basically why. My mother took the letter from me, told me that she'd read it later, and was about to put it in her bag. I stopped her and told her to read it there. I wanted to see how she was going to take the last words my father had left to her. But my mother didn't read it. She told me she wanted to read it alone later, and she put it in her bag. At that time, I realized, no, it was more than that. I should say I knew, because it was so obvious. I knew my mother was lying. She had no intention of reading my father's letter. She was going to throw it away after I was gone, but she lied just because she wanted to seem like a nice person in front of me. Lies. This is why she hates lies so much. The slight curl in her eyebrows, the lips told me more clearly than anything else. She's getting good at spotting it too. At that moment, I finally knew something else. The guy she was having an affair with wasn't the only bad person. My mother was also a bad person. Yeah, that's kind of funny too, because like, she was still so innocent that she could not view her mom as the bad person, even though her mom was the instigator of all this. Since that moment, the existence of my mother disappeared from my world like dry ice evaporating. I didn't have to hesitate about whom to live with anymore.
あなたの家には行きません。
Oh gosh.
私の家は竜宮の家です。もうあなたとも会いたくありません。
Oh wow.
二度と呼ばないでください。
でもねレイナ、お父さんの方に残ったらこれからの生活。
Yeah, what? You wanna have? I'll have love! At that moment, I hated my name for the first time in my life.
私のこと気安くレイナって呼ばないでください。失礼します。さようなら。
Those were my last words to my mother. No, to the woman who used to be my mother. After that, I spent many days without feeling anything. I didn't know if those days were long or short. I didn't know which season I was living in. Fetch me, this guy does know. Because that was my experience. I was a teen. I was a young teen, like 13, 14. And it really came out of the blue. Like, the signs probably were there, but I was a kid. I couldn't see them. But then it happened, right? And I became this, like, husk of a person for, like, a year. I, like, went to school for a year, and I don't remember any of it. I don't remember anything that happened that year. I think I just kind of robotically walked around and just did stuff, right? I attended my classes. I passed. I had friends, and I did stuff with them. The crazy thing and the worst thing for me was just before the divorce happened, I had my first girlfriend. It was a very awkward thing that both of us had no clue what we were doing, but it was very sweet. She was a sweetheart, and she asked me to a school dance, and afterwards, it just kind of happened. She clearly wanted it and wanted to try having a relationship. And I didn't really have a reason not to try, so I just kind of went along with it, and I was having a good time, and it was exciting and scary and all that good stuff, right? And then the divorce happened, and my emotions just shut down. I basically wasn't letting myself feel emotion because that was my defense. It's still my defense to this day, honestly. I detach myself emotionally when I feel overwhelmed, and that's not good. It's not a great way to handle it, but it keeps you calm, and it keeps you moving. So in a crisis, it lets you perform your actions, keep living your life, and hopefully, if you're at least somewhat competent at it, you start to kind of work on things in the back of your mind to kind of process those feelings. When I'm a kid, though, didn't know how to do that, so I just disconnected and disassociated for a year. And I don't have any memory of anything in that year, except for the fact that I basically became the worst person ever for a relationship. And so I didn't even break up with her. I just stopped engaging emotionally with her, and she eventually broke it off herself. And I felt nothing when it happened because I was just so disconnected and unplugged. It was gross. I feel very bad for how I treated her. I don't feel like I can really blame myself because I was trying to process a titanic change in my life. But I feel bad that she got caught in that crossfire and had no idea what was going on because I wasn't going to talk about it. Not really. Fetch me. God, I know exactly what this feels like. It's so real. I was supposed to be nothing out of the ordinary, not having my mother around. But every time my father saw things that reminded him of her, like her toothbrush, her teacup, or her favorite books, he shed tears, which left me frustrated. Frankly, dude, I understand, but you gotta get rid of that stuff. I know he loved her to the last day, obviously, and that makes it way harder, but you gotta get rid of that stuff. That's why I decided to completely remove her belongings from the house. That's not gonna go over well, though. I roughly threw her things into the black trash bag. See, I get her, she's kind of getting to the right thing, but as a kid, she's not seeing that, he needed to do it as part of his closure. Doing it for him or on him is actually going to be a traumatic thing for him. I started to do so frantically. By the time I knocked down her wardrobe, threw her music box hard on the floor, and broke her mirror, my mind was already not working properly. When I try to remember what happened after that, I feel disoriented. That's because the pills the doctor gave me back then made me feel disoriented and lethargic every time I took them. It seemed that dullness hit me especially hard, since every time I tried to remember that time, it makes me feel disoriented and lethargic, just like the pills made me feel. I destroyed everything that smelled like my mother. But the thing I wanted to destroy the most might have been myself. Dang, what a hard line that is, right? I destroyed everything that smelled like my mother, but the thing I wanted to destroy the most might have been myself. Even after I threw all of her belongings away, I still couldn't stop feeling regret, and I decided to blame myself in the end. Maybe I was thinking that I wanted to do damage to her reputation and a successful life by destroying her daughter, destroying myself. When I was about to reach that very last resolution, fetch me. So she was into suicidal idolization, or it's where you fantasize about it. But what happened? Orishiro-sama came to me. How on earth does that work? Orishiro-sama told me to go back to Hinamizawa. Yes, all of this was because of his curse. Orishiro-sama brought a curse upon the Ryugu family because we broke his rule and abandoned Hinamizawa. After I figured that out, everything started to make sense to me. All the crazy things that happened after my mother was gone. The curse of Orishiro-sama did it all of that to us. It was Orishiro-sama's voice that was telling us to come back to Hinamizawa. That's right. We should have stayed in Hinamizawa. Everything went crazy because we moved. We had to go back to Hinamizawa. I started feeling discontented again. A dull pain ran through my head. It might be the scream from within me telling me not to push myself too hard to remember anything further. The house where we used to live in Hinamizawa was still there. My grandma already passed away. The house is only a property she left for us. I remembered I used to live in Hinamizawa, but I also remembered that it was a village that I used to live in until right before I went to elementary school. I remembered the atmosphere of the village too, but that was all I could remember. I forgot the streets and even the names of close friends I used to play with. The neighbors knew the son of the deceased woman had come back divorced, but they didn't know us and we didn't know them. So it was almost like we moved to a new place. However, as far as I was concerned, it was still my hometown that I'd come back to. At first, everything was inconvenient compared to life in Ibaraki, and it was hard for both of us to adjust. But we renovated the old house, and it was only me and my father. Life here seemed to make my father forget his pain from the divorce. Mi-chan was kind to me, and I started to get used to my new life too. I did everything around the house, and we gradually went back to a time when we used to live happily. Anybody can live a happy life. People sometimes say that people are born to be unhappy, but I believe that's just an excuse for people who don't even want to try. I won't give in to fate. I'll never give up trying to recapture the happy times that I lost. I'm going to become happy to the point where I don't even feel the happiness anymore. I'm not going to cry anymore. I'll never cry again. I just used up all my tears on that night when my father hit me. The curse of Urashio-sama is over because we came back to Hinamizawa. So I'm going to have a happy life from now on. All of a sudden, a big raindrops hit the roof of the car and I recovered my senses. It was still raining hard. I had already gotten dark outside. The shadows of the table lamp created were very dark and it looked as if there was nothing else around me. If I turned off this light, would everything in the world disappear? I turned off the light. Darkness swallowed me. But the cold air and the sound of rain didn't change a bit, and that made me realize I was still in this world. The curse of Urashio-sama? Did the curse of Urashio-sama do those crazy things to my family? Or did I convince myself it did as an excuse for myself because I didn't want to feel guilty about the divorce? I mean, that's a very good question, honestly. Sometimes I'm not sure. Since the time, Urashio-sama hasn't come to me. I sometimes feel like it was a delusion I created because I was mentally ill. I don't like how it's calling out what I would have considered the best, most likely options. But he did come at that time. I'm sure about that. Am I right, Urashio-sama? I was unhappy that I left Hinamizawa, but I came back and I'm happy now. But where am I supposed to go now that I'm unhappy in Hinamizawa? Where? Oh, interesting. So she was happy they came back, but now she's unhappy. Why is she unhappy?
ダメだ、レナ。不幸になったとか考えちゃいけない。
But you are. You clearly are. So why are you unhappy now?
私は幸せなんだ。幸せになるんだ。だから、絶対に幸せになれるんだ。
Suddenly, I felt as if the darkness swallowed me, and I'll never be able to be happy again. I found the switch on the table lamp and turned it back on. When I looked at the clock, it was already past 11 p.m. Fetch me! Your dad must be terrified. I had to go home. I wouldn't have time to prepare my lunch for tomorrow. At least, I'd have to set the timer on the rice cooker. It didn't look like the rain was going to stop anytime soon. I looked out the window to see the rain, but could only see my reflection. I talked to that reflection in the window. I'm so glad my father's happy. He'd been acting like he was dead for a long time. The smile on his face is a good sign that he's regaining his former happy life. He became miserable because of me. That's why I don't mind doing things for him until he regains his smile and we become truly happy. When I stay here alone for a while, it gives him some time to be alone with her. Oh, is Rika the new girlfriend? And she has a lot of unhappy feelings towards a new relationship partner. Plus, I don't have to fake a smile. But then, and that's why she talked about bringing cakes home. That's why. My reflection in the window tells me, Rena, you're such a good girl. You're kind to everyone and love them equally. You can make anybody like you. But did you forget something? In this world, there are people you should be kind to, and enemies that you have to reject with all you've got. I thought you learned that lesson. No, don't listen to her. My reflection's always mean. She always says mean things and makes fun of my worries. But she always tells me things I can't say myself. Let's go home, Rena. To your home. Forget about this mean Rena in the mirror. I was a bit hungry by then. After the dessert I ate, I still got hungry. I almost forgot. Rena-san brought me shortcake. I've never had a shortcake from Angel Mort, but I bet it'll taste good. I'll have to give my thanks to Rena-san for the next time I see her. Rena-san speaks in a way that makes it very clear how she grew up, but I'm sure she's a good person. That's because she's good to my father. I did everything I could to make my father smile, but I failed. On the other hand, Rena-san can put a big smile on his face so easily. I had to thank Rena-san. I have to thank her for cheering up my father. But I don't know why. I just don't like her perfume. Does it smell like your mom? Like, is it the same perfume that your mom used to wear? Because that would explain it. Oh my gosh, this is getting crazy. But it makes so much more sense. So much more sense now. Oh my gosh, I love this. Don't call me Rena. Reminisce on the past. Alright, let's get these tips done. My summer vacation picture diary. Today I went to the swimming pool with my mom. Uncle Akihiko came with us too. I don't like him because he's sometimes mean to me, but he's a very kind and funny old man. He told me to call him Daddy for that day because he was going to play with me at the pool like he was my daddy. Oh gosh, that sucks. My mom called him Daddy, so I did too. Uncle Akihiko looked very happy and gave me lots of money. Oh my gosh. My mom looked very happy and made me happy too. I want to play with him again. I hope my dad can come with us next time. Oh, I'm so sorry, child Rena. God, that sucks. God, it makes me feel gross. I hate that. Premonition of rainy days. I opened the window, placed my cushion nearby, and prepared to enjoy the weather. But she came over and disrupted my peaceful evening. She always ruins my time of solitude.
幸せそうね。そっか。今日はあんたの大好きな甘いものがたくさん食べられたものね。
This girl loves sweets more than anything. I like them too, but can't eat like she does. You have to give me heartburn if I ate the amount she ate today. She seemed to be very happy, so I'll leave her alone for a while. I'd been making my favorite hot and salty food for the past few days, so she must be quite pleased today. It was a very fun day for me too. I just wanted to enjoy the memory of the excitement I felt today by sitting here quietly enjoying the sunset. But when I looked up at the sky, I saw some thick clouds forming there. The wind was bitter cold than usual. It might start raining soon.
大地震や大津波などの知らせとして、浅瀬に普段は絶対に見かけることができない深海の魚が現れることがあるっていう話があるらしいわね。
Hang on though. This Rika. Is this our Rika? No. Hang on. Cause yeah, Rena. Yeah, this is Rika. I was mixing up the names because they're very similar, but no, Rena is the girlfriend, the new girlfriend. This is Rika, but she's speaking like the creepy older version. You look pleased. Look sweet more than anything. Like them too, but can't eat them like she does. So who's she talking about? Is it Rena? She always ruins my times of solitude. Is it Rena or is she thinking of Satoko? Because this feels like it's Rika and Satoko more likely, because it's the same evening that we saw with Rena and them. Yeah, so I think it's Rika and Satoko. We saw a very rare fish that dwells in deep water in the shallows today. What was that explosion sound? Just as the ancient stories of sea monsters say, people hate deep-sea animals and tend to interpret them as omens of disaster. It didn't matter if they showed up alive or dead. I said something interesting just now. Even if they show up alive or dead, it was an omen of a disaster. Oh, it might start raining soon.
うるさいな。言われなくても分かってる。洗濯物を取り入れるわよ。
Is she talking to somebody that we're not hearing, or is she talking to herself? I grabbed a basket and went outside to take the laundry in. The clouds were getting darker. Oh, that must have been thunder that we heard. No, I normally like rain, but I don't think I enjoy it today. Interesting. So what is that a glimpse into? It almost feels like she was talking to herself, but I'm pretty sure Satoko was there too. That's interesting. Okay, that was a weird one to include. Okay, we're gonna end things here for today. Thank goodness for that. I feel like this episode turned out to be a perfect length for what I wanted, which means that like the way I did last episode worked out really well. So perfect. All right, so there's some real juicy stuff we're getting now. Seeing Rika at her story of the same evening, it's fascinating. And trying to get some of the insight of how she's thinking, because if that's how Rika thinks, Rika's internal thoughts are so different, almost alien from how she behaves, which is really interesting. I want to know more about that. I still think Rika is somehow she's going to be the linchpin mystery. If we figure out what she's all about and whether what her relationship with Orishio-sama really is, that's going to be like the ultimate answer. So imagine the last chapter is probably going to be a Rika chapter, because I feel like she's going to be the one that has all the true answers. Like the ones that'll make everything else fall into place. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for today. I appreciate you all being here. I'm very happy to be able to share the story with you, and I'm hoping we'll be off to a good start for this week. Goodness knows I need a win. I feel like I've been having a rough time lately, so it'll be nice to be able to like just get back into the swing of things, right? Anyway, I appreciate you all. I'm really grateful for each of you, and I look forward to reading your comments. Thank you for also being patient with me as I deal with new stuff going on. And yeah, should be real fun to hear what you got to say. So hopefully you got some good spicy things for me. And if you're a patron or member, I don't deserve you. You're awesome. Thank you so much. I hope that you continue to feel like it's worth supporting me. And if you feel like it's too much, don't worry about it. I'm just happy you're here. If you're watching the content, you're already doing everything I could ask and more. So thank you for that. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Hopefully we'll get to see some more friends in the near future. But until the next video you're watching me, I have to see me in next. I'll see you there.